What's up, guys, and welcome into the Point After with Mitch Kaiser. I'm your host, Mitch Kaiser, today. Happy Monday. Coming to you today with a mock draft. We're going to do a mock draft Monday today. I thought we got breaking the action here for college football with we got the national championship a week away next Monday down in Miami between the Indiana Hoosiers and the Miami Hurricanes. So going to wait to preview that game till later this week, either Thursday or Friday. So I thought we'd take this time to do a mock draft, the Mitch Mock 1.0. I know we're still a few months out from the NFL draft, and draft season will be coming down the pike, and that we'll be doing mock drafts every week at that point and come March and April. So excited for that, but I just thought we would do a mock draft today, a solo mock for myself. Now, the standings are not updated for yesterday's playoff games and the winners and losers from that. So don't mind the order, but you get the idea that this is close to what the picks are going to be in April. Obviously, the first 18 picks are set, of course. So, we'll get into it. We're gonna mock the first round for all 32 teams and who I think those teams will be drafting. Let me give some context. This is a what I think will happen mock draft, not necessarily what I would do mock draft. I know that you always want to label each mock as one of those. So we'll get into what I would do mock later in draft season, closer to the draft itself. But this is just a 1.0 mock of what I think is going to happen, what I'm hearing from a lot of draft experts, draft analysts who I talk to in the industry. So we'll get into it. It's going to be really fun. And, it won't be a mock draft unless I get a worst mock ever comment on it on social media. So that's the goal. All right, let's get started. Number one pick. So this one is, let's enter the draft here. So we got the Las Vegas Raiders on the clock. And I already said this on my last show on Saturday's episode after the Friday night game. This one is going to be Fernando Mendoza. You've got your new quarterback, Las Vegas Raiders, Fernando Mendoza. Come on down. I don't think there's any question anymore. I think Dante Moore was still giving Mendoza some competition, but I think that Mendoza silenced it and ended that debate, and it's unquestionably the number one pick now. I said on my last show that you can start ordering your Las Vegas Raiders jerseys, and I think that's absolutely true. I think you can pencil him in as QB1, lock him into the first pick, and start thinking about Fernando Mendoza in the black and gray jerseys next year down in Las Vegas. So great pick. It'll be exactly what they need. I have a lot of faith in Mendoza. We'll see what he really does in rookie year. He does need a lot of help there from a receiving core. Obviously, we'll have Brock Bowers and Ashton Ginty and, further along in their development. But, also we'll need a new coach. The Vegas just fired Pete Carroll, so we'll see who they go after for that to, kind of fit Mendoza's offense and the type of player he is at quarterback. But he's the ultimate leader, man, the ultimate competitor, and the ultimate ultimate winner. He may clean sweep the awards this season like Joe Burrow did a few years ago, where he won the Heisman National Championship and then number one pick. Mendoza's already done one of those things. And he's playing for a natty next Monday, and then we'll also be playing for the number one pick in April. So he could ride off into the sunset like Joe did and head to Cincinnati, and then obviously Mendoza will be in Las Vegas. So I think this will be a great pick for the Raiders, and you get your new franchise QB out of Bloomington. So, all right, moving on to the second pick, New York Jets, everyone's favorite team. So Jets fans, I know you probably want a quarterback here, and I think the media is going to make you pick a quarterback or force you into thinking you need a quarterback. But I'm here to say that you are so far away from competing for a Super Bowl that you should not take a quarterback yet. Don't do it, man. You're not ready. Don't ruin another kid's life yet. You've done that plenty of times. You got plenty of chances to do that in the future. Do that. Wait till next draft if you're going to take a quarterback. I implore the Jets to not draft quarterback and just go best player available in this one to continue building up the rest of their roster, because they are just so far behind from winning a Super Bowl that I don't think taking Dante Moore or whoever quarterback pencil in is going to really get you over the hump. And I think you're just going to end up alienating that kid. He would you're throwing him to the Wolves, and he would struggle mightily. I think the Jets and Aaron Glenn needs to build up the rest of the roster. I'm going defense on this one. A lot of people are saying Arvell Reese is the best player in the draft. I think he has one of the highest ceilings in the draft. I'm not going to go best player in the draft. I don't even know if he's the best linebacker on his own team. I think Sonny Styles is the better pure linebacker. Arvell Reese, however, is the better pass rusher, which is what NFL teams want. And that's what wins at the next level, is rushing the passer. So I do think that will ultimately set Arvell Reese apart from Sonny Styles. Just a freak athlete at the linebacker position for the Buckeyes. Can't go wrong taking either one of them. But I challenge the Jets to not go quarterback in this draft, because I don't think it's going to make a difference next season. I think you're playing for the number one pick in 2027, where you're going to have a whole abundance of quarterbacks available, like Sam Levitt, Julian Sayin, Josh Hoover, guys like that. So yeah, Drew Messemaker. I mean, the 2027 quarterback class is shaping out to be Arch Manning. How could I forget Arch? So, yeah, I would wait till then. That's what I challenge the Jets to do. We'll see if they do it, though. Wouldn't surprise me if they took a quarterback and then just ruined another one. So we'll see. Arizona, moving on to Arizona now at pick 3. This is where I do think they should go quarterback. I do think they need one, because the Kyler Murray relationship seems like it's headed towards a divorce. We don't know where he's gonna end up playing next season, but I'd be shocked if Kyler Murray was back in Arizona. I know they have the same record as the Jets, but I think their roster is far better than New York and further along, and they don't need as much weapons on the outside. So this is where I do think Arizona should go quarterback. Dante Moore would be my pick. I still have him QB2. I'm not jumping ship on him after one game, after losing to Indiana the other night. Still think he showed a lot of promise and poise and has a lot of room to grow still. I think his potential and his ceiling is higher than Fernando Mendoza's. I think Dante Moore has like CJ Stroud level potential, Jaden Daniels type of potential, where funny, I think Mendoza is more like a Kirk Cousins or like a Joe Flacco mold. Whatever, to each his own, and what you really want out of your quarterback position, if you want a little more mobility or not. But Dante Moore would be my pick for the Cardinals here. I think he could fit their offense and fit in well there in Phoenix, and could be the next guy taking over for Kyler Murray. So it remains to be seen whether Dante Moore comes out or not. That question's still up in the air. However, Dylan Raiola just committed to Oregon in the transfer portal. So if that means what I think it means, it sounds like Dante Moore will be headed off to the NFL draft, which I do think he should come out. Like we said about the quarterback class, take advantage of the bad quarterback class, come out in this one. You make way more money being a top 3 pick in the NFL than, coming back to college. So I think that's Dante Moore's best interest is coming out this draft. Obviously, he'll have to talk to his agent, talk to his family, talk to Dan Lanning, and see what's best for the kid. But that would be what I would do, and I think the Cardinals would take Dante Moore in this instance, 3rd overall. All right, moving on to the Titans. Pick number 4. Now, they still need a head coach. They need a lot of things. The Titans are one of those teams that you could low-key go just best player available and be fine. However, I think they need to get Cam Ward a dude on the outside. I think they need a true wide receiver 1. They do not have one right now on the roster. So I'm going Jordan Tyson from Arizona State. He would be my wide receiver 1 in this draft. I think he's the best receiver in the class. I think he's got that main character energy. I think he's got that wide receiver personality that you want. He's aggressive. He's athletic. He can jump out the gym. Can snag any ball in the air. It seems like Levitt would just throw the ball up. He'd just go up and get it. Makes elite acrobatic catches all the time. And I just think he's so fun to watch, man. I think Tyson's a stud athlete. His older brother's actually a small forward for the Cleveland Cavaliers right now, Jalen Tyson. Thought that was interesting. It'd be funny if he fell to Cleveland and then they took Jordan Tyson with his brother already playing for the Cavs. They could, live together in Cleveland. So, however, I think the Titans should just take Tyson here at number 4. If you want to go Carnell Tate, I'm not going to be mad. I think Tate is fantastic as well. Again, to each his own, whatever you're looking for on the outside at receiver. Tyson and Tate would be my wide receiver 1 and 2. I don't think you can go wrong with either. I'm giving Tyson the slight edge here, and that's who I think the Titans should pair with Cam Ward down in Nashville. All right, moving on, New York Giants. So Giants are interesting because they're kind of in a weird spot where Jackson Dart looked promising at times, but as a guy who was not personally high on Dart coming out in the draft myself, I was not a believer in him as a franchise QB. I think he looked apart at times, but obviously the rushing ability is kind of what set him apart in the Giants offense. But a lot of ways to go as a passer still, developing from the pocket as a pure pocket passer, because the dual threat running was not really his game at Ole Miss. So I was always kind of like confused when like Dable would bring him in for like run packages at quarterback, because I just didn't really get that. But he did it pretty successfully. So I think Dart is their guy moving forward. It sounds like they're going after like Stefanski or Mike McDaniel, one of those guys. We'll see who they hire as head coach, but I am going best player available in this draft. I know this player is a safety. However, I do not care in this instance. I think he is arguably the most talented player in this draft at his respective position. I think he's the best player at his respective position, and that's Caleb Downs from The Ohio State University. This kid has been the best safety in college football for 3 seasons now, and he deserves to be a top 5 pick. Everyone always says, like, you can't take a safety top 10. I don't care in this one because the Giants need help in their secondary. They need more DBs back there. They need a safety. Caleb Downs is going to be a superstar in the NFL. There's no doubt in my mind. This kid is graded like in the 87 PFF grade. Just been a dominant safety in college football for 3 seasons now, going all the way back to his time at Alabama. Seems like anytime the Buckeyes need a big play in the secondary, Downs would come up and make it. Just an elite athlete, elite speed, also returns punts. Can't forget some of the punts he's returned for touchdowns. I was at the Indiana game last year where he returned that punt in the middle of the second quarter. Just ridiculous player, just absolute star athlete. It wouldn't shock me if the Giants ever tried to put him on special teams to return kicks or punts or whatever, but this guy's going to be a stud back there. There's no doubt in my mind. I know Kyle Hamilton is like arguably the best safety in the NFL, and he only went and picked 14, but I'm betting the other 13 teams are wishing they could have taken him now because he's the best safety in the league, and it was wild to me that Hamilton fell to 14. Downs cannot fall that far in this one. It would be just a disservice to the player. And, as a Bengals fan, I would love if he fell to 10. I think the Bengals could use his help in the safety position, but I think the Giants got to take him here. I think he's too good to go drop any further. Caleb Downs to the Giants, lock it in. All right, moving up next to the Browns. Cleveland Browns, pick number 6. So this is where I think they got to go receiver. I think a lot of people are going to say quarterback. I am using the same Jets argument for this one. Browns at Cleveland Browns, do not draft a quarterback. Don't ruin another kid's life this season. Wait till next year to do that. I think Shadur showed a little bit to give him another chance to start some games next season. And I know there's always going to be the Deshaun Watson question while Andrew Berry's still the GM in Cleveland. So who knows if Watson is healthy enough to come back and play next season, if he shows anything. I am just imploring the Browns to not take a quarterback yet because, again, you are not ready. You need help along the offensive line, and you need help along the receiving core. This is one of the worst wide receiving cores I've ever seen in the NFL. I think you need Carnell Tate, Ohio boy, keep him in state, draft the kid. He will instantly be your wide receiver 1. There's no question in my mind Carnell Tate will be a stud in the NFL. If he didn't have Jeremiah Smith alongside on the outside, he would probably go for like 1,500 yards the past 3 seasons in college football. So Tate is that good. I thought he was the 3rd best receiver this season in college football under Tyson, Smith, and Tate right there. Can't go wrong taking Carnell Tate, and you get to keep him in the state of Ohio. Browns don't take a quarterback. I think you should build up the rest of the offense first. Starting with receiver, and then you have another pick later in the first round, which I would argue you should go tackle at that point. So, okay, pick number 7. Now, I can't believe coming into this mock draft, I thought I was going to take this player higher, and I just haven't loved the fit or they just haven't really needed a pass rusher yet. So I'm going Ruben Bain to the Washington Commanders here. They do need an edge rusher. He's the guy, man. He is my edge one in this draft. I was very close to him and David Bailey flipping, but I think Bain's the younger player, just as good as a pass rusher with a 24% pass rush win rate, was slightly higher than David Bailey's at 21.9%. So 9 sacks on the season for Bain. He led the NCAA in pressures, and he's not done yet. This guy's got another game to go against Indiana next week. He could realistically sack Mendoza a couple times and add to his final sack total. We'll see how it goes. I love Bain. Being a year younger than Bailey, I give him the slight edge there, and that's why I would take Bain over Bailey. But that leads directly to my next pick between these two. They both graded like 92 as a pass rusher, which is just insane. So you can't go wrong with either of these guys. I'm taking Bailey next to the Saints because I do think they need help along the defensive line as well and need a true defensive end who can win. And that's David Bailey. So Bain to the Commanders, Bailey to the Saints. I wouldn't argue with you if you had those two flip-flopped. No argument on my end. I think you can't go wrong with either. I think they're both going to be studs in the NFL. So David Bailey to the Saints. Moving on now to the Chiefs, who, as you can see, the top pick perfectly fits the Chiefs right away because everyone knows they need a running back. And what better star than Jeremiah Love, who is one of the best college running backs I've ever seen, can jump through the roof, can outrun just about anyone in a secondary. The guy is nuts. I mean, he's just a freak athlete. You've seen him hurdle guys in almost like every game he plays, it feels like. And the guy just put up numbers. It was almost weird. Like, it felt like Notre Dame didn't use him enough this year. Like, I thought they should have kept handing him the ball more. I remember going back to the first game against Miami and back in like August, he got the ball 10 carries. He only got the ball 10 times and ran for like 30 yards. And then every other game in the season, Notre Dame just force-fed him the ball and he would go for over 100 yards in like every game. And that is on top of having Jadarian Price, who would be my RB2 in this draft class. So Notre Dame comes into this draft with the two best running backs at their position in Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. Love, I would take in the first round, no doubt. Going to the Chiefs, giving Mahomes another weapon when he gets back from his ACL. This could start the next wave of the Kansas City Chiefs offense. Jeremiah Love could be the leader of weapons that Mahomes needs for the second half of Patrick Mahomes' career in Kansas City. So I love that pick. I think that's a home run by the Chiefs that Chiefs fans will be celebrating if he's still available at number 9. Because they need a running back more than anybody in the league almost. So, okay, moving on to the Bengals here. So I'm just gonna come out and say it. I'll fully expect the Bengals to just pick someone I've never heard of, probably because it seems like they do that every year. It seems like every player who's mocked to them ends up being the one they should have taken and would have been the more successful player in the end. But they always just draft some guy that people are skeptical of, who nobody's heard of, and then it never usually works out. So that's what I'm expecting this year out of the Bengals again. I would take Sonny Styles if I were them because I think he's a freak. I think he's going to be a stud in the NFL. I think he's like a Micah Parsons Jr. type of guy. Not to that extent, but you get the picture. You get the point. I would go Sonny Styles, but again, I think they're going to go defensive interior. Peter Woods is a good player for Clemson. Can't go wrong. Had a good season. Clemson's defense kind of got poor at the end there, but I don't think it was all Peter Woods' fault. He's been one of the best D tackles in the league for 3 seasons now in Clemson. Bengals need help along the defensive line. They need help everywhere on defense. TJ Slayton was not the answer for the Bengals this season, graded like a 43 PFF grade. So that's not going to cut it. Bengals taking Peter Woods in this instance. Again, I would implore them to take Sonny Styles because I think he has the higher ceiling as a linebacker in the NFL. But I fully expect the Bengals to do the safe pick here and probably just take Peter Woods at interior as an interior defender and then move on. And we'll go from there. So, all right. Going on to pick 11 now, Miami Dolphins. So this is interesting because they could be in the quarterback market this offseason. They could be in the quarterback market because it sounds like Tua Tagovailoa will be getting traded. It sounds like he's almost requested a trade, and it sounds like they will be honoring that request. So where he ends up, I don't know. I don't know if Quinn Ewers is the answer. I'm going to go ahead and say he's not the answer for Miami. Neither is Zach Wilson, but I almost expect them to – I don't know if there's a quarterback I would take here at pick 11. I do like Ty Simpson, and I do think he will still end up in the first round, but I do think pick 11 is a little high for him. I think it's more likely you see the Dolphins look for a QB in the free agency market or the potential trade market. Honestly, Kyler Murray could be a player for them. You never know. Or like a Malik Willis guy. Malik Willis is already getting, touted as a free agent guy who people are wanting to sign after he showed a lot of promise as a backup for Green Bay this season. So I expect Miami to do that. I am not going to mock on my quarterback in this instance. Instead, I think they need massive help in their secondary, specifically at the cornerback position. I am going Jermon McCoy, who is my CB1 in this class. Just a stud, big corner from Tennessee. This guy is a beast, man. Just an absolute monster. However, missed the entire season. 87 grade last year, 4 interceptions, 53 passer rate when being targeted. He is 6'2", big, strong, fast corner, can compete with anyone on the outside, can shut guys down. However, the one knock on him is he just missed this entire season with a torn ACL. He tore his ACL going back to last season and did not play a single snap in 2025. I get it if you don't love drafting a corner coming off a serious ACL injury. I understand it. Trust me, I do. I wouldn't be surprised if they look for a different corner or just look for a different position altogether. However, I think the talent this guy possesses has some top 10 corner in the league type of stuff. And I think I think he will be fine coming off the injury. ACLs are not like they used to be. Modern science has come a long way. So I am trusting McCoy will be fine. There were rumors he could have played this season too. So I want to let that be known. There were rumors that he could have returned for Tennessee this season. However, their season kind of derailed midway through, and they didn't really need him. They were kind of out of playoff position already. So I would say that's why they didn't ultimately rush him back. I think he was available to play, and had he shown anything, I think his stock would be even higher now. So getting him at pick 11 is probably tremendous value, in all honesty, for the Dolphins, because this guy could be a top 5 talent when you really boil it down. Had he not torn his ACL, he could go 5th overall to the Giants. So there you go, Jermon McCoy. All right, moving on to the Cowboys, America's team. Jerry Jones, who do we think he's going to take here? I think he's going to look at Sonny Styles like I just did, and I think he's going to try and see Micah Parsons 2.0. Not saying Sonny Styles is going to be Micah Parsons. There's only one Micah Parsons. But he's got some of the traits to do it, and he's got the talent, and he's got the production. He's been one of the best pure linebackers in college football for 2 seasons now, the last 2 seasons. Again, I said it in the Jets pick. I'd argue he's better than Arvell Reese is today at playing linebacker for his team. However, Arvell Reese, his physical attributes are through the roof, so I think that ultimately stands him apart. And every draft scout is salivating over Reese, so I expect Reese to go as high as 2, like I said, to the Jets. I'm taking Sonny Styles of the Cowboys. I think they're going to just load up on that defense and keep reloading as much as they can after everything they lost on defense this past year. We know that was no secret that was their weakness. The weak link on that team was the defense. Get Sonny Styles in there to be the Micah Parsons, kind of hybrid mold linebacker. And I think you're golden for that. I think that's a great pick for Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. Okay, here we go, Rams. Now, the fact that the Rams have this pick is crazy. I mean, the fact that Atlanta lost that first-round pick a few years ago, good for the Rams, man. You got 2 first-round picks, and you might win a Super Bowl this season. Just absolutely elite level stuff from their GM. So I'm going tackle for the Rams here because I think their offensive line is getting old. It's good, but they're going to need a right tackle soon, and I think Spencer Fano is the best tackle in the class. this guy has been amazing. He might go higher than this. The fact that he's only this high on the big board. Spencer Fano has been, I believe he gave up no sacks all season, like 84. Yep, no sacks, 85 PFF grade after a 92 PFF grade last season. Has not allowed a sack in the last 2 seasons of college football. Elite level stuff at the right tackle position. We've also got another Utah U, Caleb Lamu, the left tackle, is another guy who could end up in the first round too. So Utah could have both of their left and right tackles end up first round. Fano is the better one, though, who is going to be a star in the NFL. This guy has Penei Sewell type of potential. I mean, he's got the body like Penei does. He's got the athleticism, got the good footwork. I'm not saying he's going to be Penei Sewell, so don't quote me on that. No, Penei Sewell's the best right tackle in football, so not going to give Spencer Fano that pressure. But this guy has the projections that Sewell did, and I think he's going to be a star right tackle in the NFL. Okay, moving on to the Ravens now. The Ravens still need edge help. It seems like every year we do this, and they still need an edge defender, and they just keep missing on them, whether it's free agency, whether it's draft, whether it's trades. So a couple edge rushers available here. I know Keldrick Falk has a lot of fans. He's kind of more of a project still kind of developing, but he's got the body. I mean, he's like 6'6", for crying out loud. However, I'm going with a more developed pass rusher, Cassius Howe. He almost led the country in sacks this season. I believe he had 13.5 for Texas A&M, and that was one of the best defenses in college football. I mean, Mike Elko had that defense humming. That pass rush was elite, dominant all season long for the Aggies, and Cassius Howe, just a stud, 81 PFF grade, 81 pass rush grade, and 13.5 sacks for him. I love this pick for the Ravens. I think that really helps their defense. I think that's the edge rusher they need to really, really get home to the quarterbacks, because that's kind of been their Achilles heel for multiple seasons on end now. And, we'll see who Baltimore hires as their head coach ultimately, but I think Cassius Howe would be a great pick for them at defensive end and really fill a big need on their team. So, all right, moving on to 15 now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who also need edge rusher help and specifically linebacker help. I know they're losing a couple linebackers, but there aren't really any linebackers I like in this particular instance. You're kind of, reaching for one if you take one at 15 here. So I think this is where they look to the edge, and they see that they need to get their pass rush going, which was a weakness for Tampa Bay as well. So we just talked about the project and Keldrick Falk. I think that's who they go after. I think the Buccaneers take Falk, who's a project for them. Again, only had 2 sacks this season after 9 a year ago, but this guy is 6'6", 285, 14th overall on the PFF big board, and I think it's a good project. I think it's a good pick for the Buccaneers to take to really help improve their pass rush. All right, Jets. No quarterback. What we say, the rule, you're not allowed to take quarterback here. They need wide receivers, though. Garrett Wilson is the only wide receiver to speak of on their roster currently. They need to go receiver. Mekhi Lemon, who just won the Biletnikoff, is the right pick here. 90 PFF grade, stud on the outside. I would have him lower than Tyson and Tate, but there are a lot of draft analysts who have Lemon as their wide receiver 1. So you could be getting a steal here if you're the Jets at pick 16, but you have to go wide receiver here. Again, if you're not going quarterback, which I don't think you should do, you've got to add some weapons to the receiving core. And that's Mekhi Lemon's the perfect one. If he's still available, you have to sprint in that card. I don't know if he will be available at 16, but if he's there, you got to rush in the card for Lemon. All right, moving on to the Detroit Lions now. Every time I draft a Lions guy, I pretend to be Dan Campbell or Brad Holmes in my mind, like picking as who they would pick, because they're a very unique drafting team, unlike any other team, and they go with their guys and they look for traits that fit their team and their defense specifically. So I'm trying to get in my Dan Campbell shoes here and pick a guy who he would take. I know that they need help along the offensive line. That's no secret. Taylor Decker, there are rumors that he could retire, and Graham Glasnow was not great. Neither was Christian Mahogany. I know they need guys on the defensive line or on the offensive line, but most important, I think they need guys along the defensive line. Aiden Hutchinson is their only good pass rusher to speak of. They need another guy across from Aiden to help take pressure off Hutch, because this guy is doing so much for you already. Think about what he could do if he wasn't getting double teamed every time. If he wasn't, having to take on two blockers, he could really get home even more. So I think they should go edge defender if I'm the Detroit Lions here. And this is where I'm going Romello Height, who was the second best pass rusher next to David Bailey on his team. Both these guys graded over 90 PFF grade. Both have a 20% pass rush win rate. Both had double-digit sacks. The lesser of the two, but still a stud, Romello Height, Detroit Lions. I love this pick. I think that's a great guy to line up opposite of Hutch, and I think that could really improve the Lions' pass rush, which was a huge weakness on their team this season. So that could get the Lions back in the playoff next year. That could get them back where they want to go, which is ultimately win a Super Bowl. So, okay, moving on to a team that a really interesting team right now, the Vikings, because they need a lot of positions. They might need a quarterback still, and they definitely need a running back. However, I'm not a big fan of taking running backs in the first round unless they're like upper echelon superstars like Jeremiah Love and Ginty. I'll give them the pass. Bijan Robinson, I'll give him the pass on that one. That was worth it where they took him. I don't think there's a running back worth taking in the first round not named Jeremiah Love this season. So Jadarian Price would be my RB2. I would not, and then I would have the Penn State guys, Singleton and Allen after that. However, I don't think it's worth taking one at pick 18. I think you can find one in the second round, third round, day 3. I am going Vikings need help in their cornerback room, secondary. I am going Mansour Delane, who was my favorite corner to watch this season. He also gets to stay in the purple and gold with the Baton Rouge jerseys that he wore for the LSU Tigers. Mansour Delane going to the Minnesota Vikings, keeps on the purple and gold jersey, and instantly could become their CB1 for Minnesota. So Delane was fun to watch. If you didn't catch any of him this season, that guy just tackles and hits hard, man, in the secondary. So I love it. I love that pick for the Vikings. However, I could see them adding a quarterback and a running back later on in this draft, and then possibly giving them a shot to compete with McCarthy and see how that goes. But Mansour Delane going to the Vikings. Number 19, Carolina Panthers, who really showed a lot of heart in that playoff game. I want to give them a lot of credit. They really showed a lot of promise. I was a Bryce Young believer, man. I'm a Bryce Young fan, still am. I still think he can be the guy for them. I thought he showed a lot of promise and heart out there, and really put together a good 4-quarter game. I'm impressed by the Panthers. I think they'll definitely be back. And I think this pick, you could honestly continue to get Bryce Young help along the outside. I am looking for a wide receiver for this one. Tet McMillan was my favorite prospect of last year's draft. That was such a lock. I can't believe people ever doubted him coming into the league, that he didn't want to play football. Just what a star he is. Already went for over 1,000 yards. I believe he averaged 13 yards a catch, 7 touchdowns. Tet McMillan is going to be a top 10 wide receiver in a few years in the NFL. There's no doubt in my mind. But Carolina, now you need your second guy. You need your wide receiver 2 to help take pressure off Tet and really help open up the field for Bryce Young. I'm adding another tall receiver to this core. I am looking for another tall guy with height, and that is Denzel Boston from Washington, who is 6'4", 209 pounds. We are taking him. Bryce Young, who's only 5'10", that's going to help him right there. You got McMillan, who's 6'5", and then you got Boston, who's 6'4" on the outside. Two tall weapons for Bryce to take advantage of. I think that's going to help their receiving core immensely. And, really like Denzel Boston. I believe he went for 900 yards in Washington this season. Only got to get better at the next level. So there you go, Bryce Young. You got your wide receiver 2 in Denzel Boston. All right, Cowboys back on the clock after that trade with Green Bay. So this was from the Parsons trade. This is where I think – so they took Sonny Styles already. We saw him take the hybrid linebacker. They're going to probably let him rush the passer a few times. But they still need a true pass rusher. And Quentin Williams is obviously, the interior defender, not a pass rusher. This is where I'm going TJ Parker from Clemson. He has kind of fallen in this year's draft board after coming in as a top 10 prospect. Obviously, you can see he had a better season in 2024, going from an 88 to an 81. But this guy still has a lot of promise at the next level and is even good as a run defender too. So TJ Parker, line him up, rush the passer, 6 sacks on the season, going back to 12 a season ago. So I honestly think that Clemson team quit on each other. So that is what I'm chalking that up to, both him and Peter Woods having the down seasons compared to 2024. I think that whole roster quit on each other midway through the season. And I do think it's hard to play in the later weeks of the season, like week 9, 10, 11, 12, when you came in as like preseason number 4 and you lost 3 games right away. I do think the human nature of those players, they quit on each other. And I think that's ultimately why they didn't have as good of a season as they wanted to. But I still have a lot of faith in TJ Parker's potential at the next level. I still think this is a solid pick for the Cowboys. I would take Parker here as an edge rusher from Clemson. Okay, Steelers. Now, moving on to Steelers. So I think a lot of people are going to want them to take a quarterback somewhere in this draft. I'm not going to do that yet because I'm unsure of what their plans are for that position. And they have a game tonight. They might win tonight against the Texans, and they might move on to play the Patriots next week with Aaron Rodgers. So Aaron Rodgers has said he's not sure about next season and what he wants to do. I think he wants to play one more year. He said he's going to make that decision after this and could ultimately come back to Pittsburgh. So he could sign like a 1-year final deal with Pittsburgh. So I am not going to mock a quarterback to them because they still have Mason Rudolph on the roster. They still have Will Howard on the roster, who I ended up being sort of high on last year, a season ago after the championship, where I was like, this guy just makes some throws, man. Like I wouldn't be shocked if Will Howard ever got a shot with them in Pittsburgh to be their kind of game manager, point guard, quarterback who kind of plays like, Derek Carr and guys like that. I'm not going to go quarterback for them. I think they still have enough on the roster. However, they need a wide receiver. Other than DK Metcalf, they have no wide receivers really who really scare you as a defender. So, Adam Thielen and Valdez-Scantling at this day and age is not the answer in their old age. So I am looking for a slot receiver here. I am going Casey Concepcion from Texas A&M. This guy is a freak in the slot as a slot receiver. Just so fast, so shifty, so dynamic. Will be a great weapon for whoever their quarterback is. If it's Rodgers next year, they desperately need a slot guy. I don't know if Calvin Austin's really getting it done in the slot. Roman Wilson has not worked out there at all for them. So I'm going Concepcion. That's a perfect weapon, just what the Steelers need. And that dude, I'm almost shocked Concepcion's not higher on certain draft boards because I think this kid is electric, man. All right, Chargers. Now, we all watched last night's game, so we all know how that ended, and we all know what they need. They need offensive line. It's crazy to me that a Jim Harbaugh team does not have a good O-line because that's just what he builds from without. That's how he built his team at Michigan. And I know he had injuries. Obviously, Rashawn Slater and Joel both got injured this season, so that hurts. The tackles are going to come back. They'll be fine on the tackles, but they do need interior O-line, specifically at the guard position. We are going I'm going to butcher this guy's name, the Penn State guard, Olaviega Leon. Apologies to that kid. I just butchered your name. But he's been a stud at Penn State for a few seasons now. One of the best interior O-linemen in the country. Chargers, you just don't overthink this pick. You got to take it. You got to take a guard. You got to take a lineman here. Olaviega Leon from Penn State is the top guard in this class. So he's a big, strong guard for him. Can really protect Herbert back there because Herbert needed it last night, man. That was hard to watch if you're a Herbert fan. Just could not do anything against that defensive line and was just getting bodied with no protection all game long. So really felt bad for Herbert. That's why I think the Penn State guard is the right pick for them. I think if he's there at 22, you can just, don't overthink it and just take him. So, all right. Philadelphia Eagles here. So, like I said about Dan Campbell, I'm going to put on my Howie Roseman cap here because he's playing chess while every other GM's playing checkers, it seems like, in the NFL. So this guy looks for Georgia Bulldogs, man. I'm trying to get him a Georgia Bulldog here because he loves drafting players out of Georgia. Who would have thought that that's ever a bad idea? I mean, they're, the college best defense in the country, and then you just add the same players to form the NFL's best defense. I mean, you got guys like Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nakobe Dean, Keely Ringo, Nolan Smith, all Georgia Bulldogs. We're adding another one for them. They need help at linebacker, specifically Nakobe Dean. They might lose. I believe they are losing Nakobe Dean this offseason. So we're going to go CJ Allen from Georgia, who is one of the best linebackers in the country. Howie Roseman adds another Bulldog to the mix. Guys from Georgia work hard. They're absolute dogs, no pun intended. And they're going to work their ass off to really get play time for the Eagles. So I think they can reload on the defense. I wouldn't be surprised if they went edge rusher, but I do think the Georgia Bulldogs, CJ Allen being available there. Guy's a superstar, man. He was their best defensive player all season, and kind of a weaker Georgia defense compared to years past, but he was just on the second level. He was just lethal all year for them. So, all right, this is where we got Browns on the clock. All right, Browns need a tackle here. Browns need a tackle big. They, like we said earlier, don't take a quarterback. You already got a wide receiver in Carnell Tate. Build up the O-line, build up the offense, and then worry about the quarterback lastly. That is what my advice I'm giving the Cleveland Browns here. Francis Mauanoa is so talented, too talented to still be available at pick 24, honestly. So that is what I'm taking. He is the right tackle for the Miami Hurricanes, who are still in the college football playoff, playing for the Natty next week. This guy has been a monster all season long, protecting back. You've seen it happen. He has not given up a sack yet or pressure in the college football playoff. Elite level stuff from Francis Mauanoa. The Browns need this guy. They desperately need this guy. Get him in there, get him on the line, build up the O-line. You got Tate, you got Mauanoa. I think those are two safe, solid, good picks for day one of the Cleveland Browns. All right, here we go. Chicago Bears now. So Chicago Bears really need help along the defensive line as well. And I think this is where you go Caden McDonald. So you see Caleb Banks and Caden McDonald. Banks is higher on the PFF board here. I would have McDonald higher personally. I think he's better. The better of the two was, one of the best, arguably the best D tackle in college football this season for Ohio State. He was just a man in the middle, not allowing any rushing yards. Pretty elite stuff from him. I think he's gonna be a star, star D tackle in the NFL. Just what the Bears need. They've got everything, just about everything they need on the offensive side. They built up the line. You got Caleb, and with this offense finally thriving. And now I think the defensive line is what you need to build up next. Caden McDonald, great pick from the Ohio State University. All right, Buffalo Bills here. Buffalo Bills need help in the secondary. They need help everywhere on defense, truly. I mean, they're still using Nick Bosa as a pass rusher in 2026. So, we saw how ineffective he was yesterday against the Jaguars. But this is where I kind of don't love any of the edge rushers still available for specifically here at pick 26. So I'm a big fan of Avion Terrell from Clemson, the cornerback. I do think the Bills need help in their secondary. You can't go wrong taking Terrell here. Younger brother of A.J. Terrell, star corner from the Atlanta Falcons, who also went to Clemson. This guy's got it in his genes, man. Good family genes here. Avion Terrell, just a lockdown family of corners, man. And the Bills add another one to their secondary. So there you go, Buffalo. All right, pick 27 now. I cannot believe the San Francisco 49ers are still playing football in the playoffs. Beating the Eagles yesterday, I don't think a lot of people saw that one coming. So Brock Purdy got his revenge from the torn shoulder game a couple years ago. So the Purdy revenge game, happy for him. Happy to see that. So, but they need help on defense, man. I think every single one of their defensive line starters is hurt and out for the season with an injury. They lost Bosa, they lost Werner, they lost all those guys, and they need help along the D-line. Alfred Collins and C.J. West did not have a good season. Either did Michael Williams, who was their number 11 overall pick. Edge rusher or defensive tackle. Take your pick here. I think Caleb Banks is the best player available here from Florida, the best D tackle available. Take it. Take the pick. let him compete with West and Collins on the D line and see who wins for next season. Because the Niners have got to get that defensive line going because it is just a major weakness right now. But it still hasn't lost them a game. So it's kind of wild how Kyle Shanahan's still getting it done and winning games for the Niners. So, all right, pick number 28 now. Another team who needs offensive line help, who had a struggling offensive line for C.J. Stroud. They improved throughout the season, but I would still argue it's not a good line. It's just a line that gets by. So I'm going Caden Proctor here from University of Alabama for the Houston Texans because I just think this guy is just a stud athlete at his size. He's a dancing bear as well, just so light on his feet. I think it's a good pick for the Texans. They drafted a lot of Alabama guys. It's kind of funny. So a lot of Alabama guys there. So he'll fit right in on their offensive line, which needs help. And he'll be C.J. Stroud's new bodyguard. So I like that pick for them. All right. Pick 29 now. So this pick, I'm going to have some fun with this pick because going into this mock draft, just going into this draft in general, I think the Rams know they're headed towards not a reset, but like after what happens this season, Matthew Stafford may only play another year or two. So I think they need to add a quarterback. I think you should add one to sit behind Stafford truly and set up the next wave of your team. This is where I'm going Ty Simpson because I'm a Ty Simpson fan. I would have him QB3. I think he's good enough to go in the first round. I think he deserves to go in the first round. I think this is where you should take Ty Simpson to sit behind Stafford for a year